We're looking at a Quest Dual 225. Top is currently off, front panel is also off. This unit was not dehumidifying properly. Alright, so I didn't video it, but while we had this running, I took amp draws. The black was definitely my highest amperage, but I was only in 0.5. And then my red and my yellow were like 0.3, 0.4 at best. So I imagine with this being a 6 amp unit, it should be pulling more than that on the compressor alone. Alright, I think that's oil down there. The compressor is turning on. It's getting extremely hot, but we're not moving any heat. I think we're out of refrigerant. Pretty oily. Couldn't get my hand in there, but I put a tape measure down there. That's definitely oil.
We got with Quest support. We let them know what was going on. This unit's under warranty, and they want to make sure that it has no more downtime. So they sent us out a couple parts. They also want us to upgrade the compressor, since we're going to have to pull a vacuum on it anyway. Due to this unit's location, we're going to take it down, take it outside, make our repair, pull a vacuum, all that fun stuff, and then put it back in, either in this spot or over here. We'll get this down. All right, here she is. So we got it down, we got it out. Next step is we gotta investigate further into this leak, right? So we got some cheat sheet instructions from the big dogs themselves, and we're gonna get into it, but we're gonna have to drill out some rivets, remove side panel by drill 7 rivets. So let's get this bad boy opened up. We're gonna have to use a little bit of magic. So we just got our side panel off. We're getting our first look in here. This is the oil we were seeing from up above. Maybe in here. We are gonna get our leak detection equipment out and try to pinpoint this. But we have a compressor, a coil, all sorts of goodness depending on what we find in here. So let's dive in a little deeper. All right, and then I think our big core will just pull right up. Ooh, she's heavy. All right, let's go through some of the parts that we were sent. I believe this is going to be our filter dryer. Yeah, sure is. Okay, interesting. That's a 3-hole. So you got to braze one of those shut. We got a new compressor relay, a process stub. Cool. And this dealio is going to connect our compressor to the new coil. Then we have a compressor adapter plate, a mount for our capacitor, fresh feet, and our metering device. Dual cap tube. All right, we gave it a shot. The H10's not finding anything. Our ultrasonic's not finding anything. We had all sorts of oil. We're gonna keep this assembly together, remove it, and submerge it in water and find out where this leak is at. We're gonna move forward with our compressor and coil change. We're not too concerned with pinpointing the leak here. Since we did identify that there was a leak, Quest went ahead and sent us every possible thing that could be leaking in that quadrant. New coil, new copper, new filter dryer, new cap tube. So it's really just about moving forward with this repair. All right, while we could unsweat this coming from the liquid, I want to keep this whole assembly together for pressure testing underwater. So before we cut this, we're gonna make sure we can get a new loop bent. So let's go ahead and do that. That's gonna work. We're gonna trim that up, and that way I can do some more testing on this coil, figure out where that leak really was. A couple of screws down here at the bottom that use the star bit. One on this side, and one on that side. It's gonna be a little more tricky to get it, but we'll get it. All right, our screws are out. I think we can just take this, yeah, there we go, right out. All right, old coil, new coil. We got some accessories we need to braze on. But first glance, looks all right. I mean, it got shipped here, but they did a pretty good job with the foam. All right. But before we go back in there, we're gonna take that compressor out and let's clean all this nonsense up. Start fresh. All right, our compressor feeder, good old 7/16. Got the nut driver out, make life a little easier. All right, we have our evaporator coil removed from this Quest DU, and I just wanted to show there's quite a bit of slope in the drain pan. We see a lot of DUs that are hung crooked towards that drain outlet, and this just proves that's not necessary. There's plenty of slope inside this unit. We just need to make sure the traps are right. All right, before we put this evaporator coil in, we're gonna treat the drain pan real fast with a silicone-based enzyme, because we're never gonna be able to get to the bottom of this as good as we can right now. So we'll just leave that in there. All right, we're at this stage here. We're installing the new compressor adapter plate using short 3/8 bolts. So that looks like this, right? You see the old rib nuts through there and the new rib nuts? Well, these are the two compressors. They both appear to have the same foot mount. See how the new one has a bigger foot mount? So we need to put this adapter plate in order to make it fit. All right, now we just gotta line up these holes. Ooh. Something like that. Like that. That'll go back in the top. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it there. All right, we're gonna start with our stub. We'll flow a little bit of nitrogen, put a wet rag under it, get that bit going, and we'll start the putback. All right, before we braze this up, we're gonna use our rubber tip to blow through our existing condenser coil. Right, this is our only remaining coil. Turn our tank on. We're going in here. And we want to get any of that old oil out because we got a new compressor with a new oil charge. Should be good. All right, we're gonna braze this up in stages, especially because that lets us flow nitrogen to protect our paint, because these environments are humid, and under this paint is steel. What we don't want is rust. So to protect this paint, we're gonna use some hot block by a solder weld. We'll get that puttied up. We should take a little bit. It's a putty, so we're just gonna kind of shape it all around where we want the paint to stay nice. The key is no air bubbles. Right, so you got to kind of work it together. Right, we'll build up on this compressor outlet just a little bit. But yeah, something like that. That one protected too. Very handy tool. All right, we got our hot block. Anywhere we're gonna be in direct contact braze wise. Now, like the paint that's in threat of just being blown on, we're gonna put, this is a heat blocking gel. And this is what I use the gel for anything that shouldn't get caught on fire, but might get, you know, brushed with the flame. So we'll just do, let's put this cap back on here. We got our ports open so we can flow some nitrogen, but we don't need any gel in there. So that's protected now. And again, this is just for anything that might get kissed by the flame. My gel wasn't sticking on this coating very well, so I just went ahead and put a rag behind there. We just got that bad boy brazed, we got that one brazed, that one brazed. So now we can start to work on this liquid line, just because it was going to be real hard to get to this one before we work on this one. So brazing in phases. All right, so we have the exact same filter dryer that has a process stub. I'm going to just use this bad boy. Instead of pinching off. The problem is this is a 2-cap system, so one of those on the other side, no matter what you do, it's going to have to get filled up with solder. I just don't want to plug up the cap tube while I do that. So we want to make sure we flow with nitrogen, and the extra port is going to really help us do that. We got this bad boy fitted up, ready to braze. Our cap tube's in, so we're going to get that done real fast. All right, we're getting there. We just got our filter dryer brazed in, our stub brazed in, our liquid line reconnected. Got our metering device in. About to go through a pressure test. But yeah, we're almost there. All right, you know it's getting late when the outdoor lighting's coming on. So we are on a pressure test. We're using both ports. We got everything slimed up right now. We're looking for any signs of leak. We got some hot block to clean up. I think we're looking pretty good. So this big core, let's talk about it for a second. So we just had this out, right? This one's the condensing coil. This is the evaporator. The fan lives here. So the fan draws through half of these slots, right? Half of these slots are for vertical air, half are for horizontal. So the fan's drawing air through what appears to be like a HRV, right? Heat recovery, cools it, then it gets turned around and pushed down, right, through these vertical slots into that condensing coil, and then it dumps on either side. But that's how we flow through, right, through these slats, right? See how we're every other, right, for going that way, and then for downward airflow, we go through every other slat on the top. All right, it's getting cold. Our pressure test is dragging on. We are gonna take this unit with us. Shop's not too terribly far from this job, so we're gonna take this back, put it on a vacuum for a few hours, and bring it ready to hang. So we have a change of scenery coming up. All right, we've had our pressure test running for like 2 hours. We're good to go. We're gonna pull a vacuum on this bad boy. All right, we're pulling a vacuum. We got our micron gauge, the 2 stubs. I like to use 2 micron gauges. We're going through 2 core removal tools, pulling a nice deep vacuum. And we're gonna get some refrigerant back in here from the factory charge. All right, so let's put this defrost switch back in. This is basically a freeze stat. It's got this little ridge, right? And we gotta lock our fitting into the ridge, right? Just like that. We'll get some fresh foam tape to wrap that up. Pull it down to a nice deep vacuum. We're valved off. We're gonna do a decay test for 10 minutes. We want to see this not rise above 1,000 in those 10 minutes. So we pull the vacuum well under 500, actually down below 200. Valve the system off, and now we're going to wait 10 minutes and make sure that we don't rise above 1,000 before we proceed charging this unit. That decay test barely passed, so we just let it pull overnight and then checked it in the morning. All right, our vacuum is pulled, our decay test is passed. We're gonna go ahead and weigh our charge back in. We got our scale, we're gonna tear it out. We use our nameplate to determine our charge. So this particular unit takes, I believe, 32 ounces, exactly 2 pounds. Yep. Refrigerant R410A, 32 ounces. All right, and we're off. We're just gonna break the vacuum. We're charging directly into the high side. We're trying to fill this condenser with liquid. Right, we're 1 pound in. Boom, right there. She's recharged. Now we gotta put the shraders back in, get our covers back on. We're on the way. So in this process, we also had this relay to change. We changed it, and this capacitor we had to change, changed it out too. All right, she's back together. I did take out more screws than I needed, so I had to use some bigger screws to fill some of the rivet holes, but we are back together. Unit's cleaned up a bit. We're ready for reinstallation. All right, we're back installed. We're not gonna go back with the duct kit anymore because we've decided to just dedicate this to the room that it's in instead of trying to get it through 2 rooms. But we came right back to life. We're removing quite a bit of moisture. This is a 225, I believe. We looked it up. You need 8 inches of trap depth. So while that trap looks ridiculous, it's absolutely necessary. And we're already removing quite a bit of moisture. So there it is. This is gonna be where we part ways, Dehu. It's a good time. Full rebuild, back in business.